In this video segment, we're going to look at the process of common factoring, which is dividing out the greatest common factor from all terms. I have two sets of numbers. The first is 35, 42, and 21. Of those three numbers, the greatest common factor is a 7. 7 can be divided into each of those numbers. And what you'd be left with is 5, 6, and 3. In the next set of numbers, I have a 3x, 12x squared, and a 15x cubed. Each term contains a number and a variable, and the variable has exponents on some of them. The greatest common factor that can be divided out of all of those terms, number-wise, is a 3. And as far as the variable goes, the greatest common factor of all of those variables is an x. 3x divided by 3x is a 1, so you'd be left with 1. 12x squared divided by 3x, you're left with 4. And x squared divided by x is an x. And 15x cubed divided by 3x is a 5x squared. So the greatest common factor of those three terms is a 3x. Looking at an example that is an expression, so terms with adding and subtracting in between them, so it looks like standard form of a quadratic. You have something like 3x squared plus 9x. And the greatest common factor in both of those terms would be a 3 and an x. 3x squared divided by 3x, the 3's cancel out, and you're left with 1, and x squared divided by x is 1x. And what you're dividing out, you put out in front of the brackets as like so. And then 9x divided by a 3x, you're left with 3. The x's cancel out. You check your work, check your factoring by distributing the 3x or multiplying that into the bracket. So it's 3x times a 1x, you're left with 3x squared. And a 3x times 3 is a positive 9x. And that is the original expression. Another example would be negative 2x squared plus 6x minus 20. Not all of the terms in this expression have a variable, so you cannot divide a variable out. But they all have a number that's divisible by 2. The greatest common factor of all three terms then is that negative 2 in front. So you divide that out of each term. Put what you're dividing out in front of the bracket and what's left over after you're dividing inside the bracket. So negative 2x squared divided by 2, you're left with a positive 1x squared. A positive 6x divided by a negative 2 is a negative 3x. And a negative 20 divided by a negative 2 is a positive 10. And that is your segment into common factoring.